Welcome to 843 TV. I'm your host, Lisa Richardson, and today we're coming to you from the Beaufort City Hall. We'll be hearing about all the exciting economic and development projects that are going on right here in the town of Beaufort. Joining us today is our first guest, Ms. Kathy Todd. She is the City Finance Director. Also joining us is Bill Prokop. He is the City Manager in the area. Joining us also is Neil Puglisi. He's the Director of Public Projects and Facilities. So stick around and join us for this episode of 843 TV, where communities come to speak.
(843 TV), where Bluffton comes to speak.
Where Spring Island comes to speak.
Where Hilton Head Island comes to speak.
Where Beaufort comes to speak.
(843 TV),
where communities come to speak.
Welcome to 843 TV, coming to you today here from the City Conference Planning Room over in the Beaufort area in the building, municipal building. Here today to talk to us all about the budget and all kind of things are Bill and Kathy. Good morning. Good to see you both.
Good morning.
Budget. No one ever wants to really talk about that, but it's very important and necessary to do. So let's talk about, I'll start with Bill. Give us an overview of the upcoming budget. What are some of the high points and that will help the city be able to do what it needs to have done?
I think the key high points of our budget this year is to provide, number one, the public safety needs of the entire city, which is geographically a very large city, but population-wise confined to 13,000 people. But this covers our police and fire, it's number one. Number two is that we have many programs in place for the economic vitality to increase the economic development activities and to be able to create jobs that would create higher earnings for people to be able to live here and afford the apartments, etc. Coupled with that is the affordable housing that we want to provide to people that live here. And the third is to make sure that our infrastructure is taken care of and is safe to use. Those were the three or four major areas that this budget addresses.
Sure, and sounds like all very important and equally as important. One sort of affects the other. And so speaking of budget, this is your department, is that right?
That's right.
It seems that it's a very balanced budget, which is certainly a positive thing. Explain to us how you were able to make that work.
There were several factors actually that played into that role. One is that our TIF 2 district closed at the end of this fiscal year, and there were taxes associated with that TIF 2 district that now will go into the general fund. So that gave a very large, significant bump in revenues to the general fund.
Explain what that TIF 2 budget is for those who may not be aware.
The TIF 2 district is a special district that's created. The county shared in it, the school district and the city. And as growth occurred, there was a base year back in 2001, 2002, and that base year kind of froze the assessed value. And then as assessed values increased, that increased tax from those increased assessed values went into the special TIF 2 district to be used. Boundary streets construction is part of the benefit of those TIF 2 dollars.
Okay.
And now that is closing, and so the city's normal tax on the assessed value in that district is part of the general fund now, going into fiscal year 18. So that added about $650,000 to our revenue. Plus, we're doing a capital lease program rather than spending the cash on our infrastructure needs, like Bill was indicating. We're going to do capital lease, so that added some revenues to our base, and then we have kind of a savings plan in our fund balance for specific things like equipment and redevelopment and land, and so we're pulling some resources from those savings accounts to help to balance the budget.
This help with some capital things, it sounds like.
Helps with the capital needs without increasing the millage rate and or fees.
Great, that's probably good news to those residents, isn't it? And we'll go back to you, Bill. How do you connect the new budget to the city's overall strategic plan?
I think I'd answer it in reverse. The strategic plan was the basis we established our budget. Our strategic plan has 5 major goals, And as we even have in this room, every department has the strategic plan poster in their department for all employees to understand what we're trying to do. And number one is we want to create economic development. So in our budget, in our redevelopment fund, monies were allocated for several different redevelopment activities, including marketing. The second was a good communications plan, which is not necessarily a money one, but making sure that we're proactive, more out exactly what we're doing today, telling people what's coming rather than reporting what happened.
Right. Getting the word out in advance is very important and certainly very appreciated with the community. They want to know what's happening.
Exactly.
Good.
The third is we're developing or expanding our infill, and that means in the downtown area, particularly what's called the Northwest Quadrant in Beaufort, which is from the downtown out to Boundary Street. Many homes have been in disrepair or just left vacant for numbers of years. So we have a program to take and revitalize that whole area with incentives and waiver of some of the fees, et cetera, they'd normally have. So that's been also built into our budget. Affordable housing is another that we wanted to be able to create workforce housing so that teachers, police officers, firemen can afford to live in Beaufort, do not have to commute, or people working in the hotels, they don't have to commute 20, 30 miles. So these are the goals that our whole budget was established at, and every department has those. They have to refer whatever they're doing in their department. If it's the police department, for example, one of our second goal is communications. Well, we have a very effective community resources program with our officers. So they're not just out arresting people, but they're playing with the kids. They're making sure their bicycles are repaired. There's a very good. We even have now a dog in the police department that's a friendly dog. So when let's say family dispute goes on and the police have to have a family come in, the kids can sit down and there's a little dog that they can just play with and just help them relax. So our whole budget was really tied to the five strategic goals that we set.
And I love how you use the word revitalize, by the way, and that's a great positive word. And real quick, as we wrap up this segment, Kathy, do you anticipate with all these changes and all these new improvements that local revenue to continue to increase in the next 5 years?
Well, we've seen a modest growth over the years, in particular with residential growth, and we anticipate that to continue. Where we've seen some growth is in the commercial area, and so that we potentially will see some benefits from that commercial growth going into the next few years.
Okay, great. Stay right here. We'll be back with more 843 TV from City of Beaufort. Welcome back to 843 TV. Joining us now on the panel is Mr. Neil Bugliese, City Director of the Public Projects here in the City of Beaufort. Welcome and thank you for joining us now, Neil.
Thank you very much for having us this morning.
Lots of stuff happening out there on Boundary Street, lined up with barrels, which always means good things and new construction. So why don't you bring us up to date on what's happening, what will people see through the summer and into the fall?
So what people are seeing right now is they're seeing a lot of work done on the duck bank construction, particularly on the north side of Boundary Street. And what that is it's taking all the utilities and submerging them below the surface. And so all those wires that they see above the road, those are all going to go underneath the road. That is a pretty significant project right there. And then after the duck bank is completed, then we will go ahead and move to the balance of the street construction, or the construction of the median in Boundary Street.
How long do you anticipate this process to go?
This process is will be substantially complete probably in February and March of 2018. There is a tremendous amount of work that has to be done. We've already done a tremendous amount of work on the south side of Boundary Street, as marked by the removal of the aerial poles and all the wires along the south side of Boundary Street.
Huge undertaking, but well worth all that's going to be to follow after that.
It is, and I will tell you that the next few months are going to be particularly interesting in Beaufort, particularly here in the summer. There is going to be a tremendous amount of traffic congestion
Yeah.
pursuant to the construction that's occurring. We are entering and have entered arguably the most difficult phase of the Boundary Street project, in essence working on the north side duck bank in concert with the street improvements. So drivers can expect a tremendous amount of traffic disruptions, traffic delays, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a fantastic street.
Absolutely. So we're just asking for patience and as people wait through the project.
And
Yeah.
that's one thing I think which is critical to highlight, and that is that oftentimes you're going to find motorists, understandably so, frustrated because they can't get through Boundary Street in a timely fashion. But we really need folks to go ahead and slow down, take an extra 10-15 minutes to get to wherever it is
Right.
you're going, so that we can create a safe environment for pedestrians, motorists, and the work crews that are doing some absolutely backbreaking work to go ahead and bring this project in.
Sure, and it's all going to look wonderful. How is this affecting the businesses in the area, as well as how has it affected back when we had the hurricane disruption? Now we have this. What's going on with the businesses on the road?
I think if I was a business person, I'd say, why did you even start this, to be honest with you? But I really do have to say, and we really appreciate and thank the business owners along the way, because
Yeah.
A, we've tried to communicate with them as much as we can as to what's happening. Neil puts out a weekly update of what to expect the next week. Of course, the no left-hand turns from one side to the other bothered some businesses because people could only access, but we've had great cooperation. People have, as you drive down the street, you will see signs open during construction. But I think overall, people are looking what's at the end of the tunnel.
Right, of
And the
course.
fact is that it will be a really very professionally done streetscape that will hopefully attract new businesses, but will also attract customers and tourists to stop along the way to the businesses that are there. And I think the most critical thing with this project right now is we are right on schedule and we're on budget. So
Two positives right there.
two very big positives, that everything is going along, and as Neil said, we are in the critical stages, but over the next couple months, once we get through the North Duck Bank work, then we know the changes or the surprises that would come up. You can see because they're above ground. You don't know what's underground when we're digging or boring or doing whatever we are. So from a financial point of view, once we get done with the underground work, our risk of the unknowns is a lot less, because, okay, asphalt may go up because oil prices go up or what happens,
Right.
but those are more tangible that we can say what they are. We can do our estimates. But right now, we're pleased with the schedule and very pleased with the budget.
And like you said, it's all going to be better for all those businesses that are there now and ones to come in the future. So great stuff. In addition, you have a new intersection going in, being constructed by the
We do.
Chick-fil-A. Let's hear about that.
Okay, so that is a very, very complex intersection. Of course, that whole street was created as a result of the Boundary Street project. And it's a great connection. It's a fantastic connection. That intersection is not complete yet, and it will not be complete until the duck bank construction reaches that point. So the duck bank, or undergrounding the utilities, has got to occur through that intersection before we can go ahead and pave over that intersection and activate that thoroughfare. Now, I will tell you that with the duck bank construction, we're finding a lot of things in the ground, some things that weren't supposed to be there, and some things that are there that we weren't, we're not expecting. So there's some surprises, but as Bill said, on track, on budget so far, and I believe that we're gonna bring this project in probably the March timeframe.
Yeah, sounds like some really great stuff. I'm excited. I'm not a Beaufort resident, but I'm excited to see what the end result here in the project. As we close, any last thoughts from either of you on the whole process?
I would only add, we started this week of taking down the buildings that are on the marsh area. that is going to open up the scenic view of the entire marsh
Oh, wow.
on the south side. And probably by the end of this week, the 3 buildings that were purchased will be down, and then that will become a passive park that will be just seated in grass, but people will have a nice view. That's where you
Wow.
see the boardwalks in.
Yeah.
So people can, they can walk along there and see that, or from a vehicle you'll be able to see, and have a sort of a welcoming, a welcome to Beaufort that other than just here's what's for sale, but you have a view
Yeah.
of the low country.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Y'all stick around. We'll be back with more 843 TV. We're back here at 843 TV with Bill and Neil and sharing about all the projects happening here in Beaufort. Neil, we've been talking about Boundary Street in the last segment, so let's talk about another area in downtown area, the Marina. Tell us what's happening to improve that area.
There's a tremendous amount of excitement down there in the marina. And of course, you know, Beaufort, the city of Beaufort, Beaufort County, this is our salt life culture.
Absolutely. It's my favorite, I can tell you that.
You know, our water life, this
It
is
is.
the linkage to our culture, to our lifestyle. So we've had some tremendous improvements down there in the at Waterfront Park, specifically the marina. We've had the transient dock built, we've had the H dock torn down and then rebuilt, and then we've had the dinghy dock repaired. Tremendous amount of work, about $1 million, give or take, on the improvements down in the marina. But this is, again, enhancing the capacity for us to go ahead and pay homage to our salt life culture.
Well, how will that affect the summer water festival that happens every year?
This is going to, again, provide a lot of capacity down there at Waterfront Park. Of course, you know, there is the H dock was put over the edge, if you will, with Matthew. So the H dock was an aging facility, aging structure, required some work. Matthew, of course, pushed it over the edge, and then we worked with the local contractor, O'Quinn Marine Construction, and they did a fantastic job demolishing the old structure and then rebuilding the H dock on time, on budget, and getting that thing, the facilities ready for us by the time the water festival hit.
And I'm assuming also a dock that would probably withstand, unfortunately, another hurricane should it come.
So we inspected literally every single screw on that dock there, and that thing is sound.
Not going anywhere.
That thing is, you know, God willing, that dock is going to be with us for the next, 25 years or so.
And I would add to that too, that there's no construction during this whole summer. We have to plan the construction in the winter months when the boats aren't coming in or there's festivals. And for example, this coming weekend is our Dragon Boat Festival, which will be very large and the first time in June. So the activities, the water fest, all of those things are scheduled and everything's in ship-shape condition for them, better than it's been in the last 5 years.
Great. Another large project that opened not long ago over in Ladies Island was the new Walmart. I understand that's created some traffic congestion that you typically would expect with Walmart and big projects. Can you share a little about what's being done to help alleviate that?
Yeah, and I guess I'll start with your comment that you just made, and that's been an assumption of a lot of people. And if you read the paper for the last years, or read the news, I shouldn't just say the paper, Walmart was going to be creating all this traffic. But the problem is there's 300 or 400 new homes that seem to be going to Walmart that are really is where the traffic's coming from. And I can tell you factually, because I talked to our police chief just yesterday, since Walmart's open, which is just about a month now, we've had 0 traffic issues, 0. And everybody was saying this is going to be a huge traffic problem. There is not any more of a traffic than the typical people going out to Fripp Island or whatever for the summer. And in addition, we're pleasantly surprised. I believe as of yesterday, we only had a few calls for shoplifting. So the Walmart, of all of the negatives that have come, that were coming when Walmart was being built, the facts are none of those are really happening. So yes, there's traffic, But the other thing that people missed and was never publicized, there's 300 people working there.
I was going to say,
And
let's
and
remember
I've-
to point that out.
I've
yes.
been out there 3 times, twice for their grand openings. They had an early one, and talked to some of the employees. They're thrilled that they can travel 7 minutes to work instead of 30 minutes to Hardeeville or whatever other Walmart store they were. So these people, and as our mayor says to them, you know, now you're working close to home. You can attend the PTA meetings. You can do things now that you couldn't do before. So there's, like anything, there's the good and the bad, but of all the concern for traffic issues, et cetera, because of Walmart, it's factually not happening. That doesn't mean there isn't a traffic problem and concern on Ladies Island, particularly at the intersection, but it's not just because of
Right,
Walmart.
and certainly a lesser concern above those positives that you mentioned. You can work close to home, you can have more family time, and at the end of the day, that's really what's most important and what matters.
Exactly.
And so, let's talk about the infrastructure projects that are due to happen. How are you planning on keeping the city safe and economically thriving, and the beauty that we have here, keeping that in line?
Well, unfortunately, one of our biggest issues is the geographic location we're in. It's called the Low Country. And the fact of things like hurricane, the fact I think it's the next few days, we're going to have king tides. We're going to have flooding. So we know that our stormwater issues, many of them go back 40, 50 years in various neighborhoods, have to be addressed. And we know that we're talking millions of dollars that has to be spent on improving stormwater and our management of stormwater. The other issue is constant cooperation that we have to have between the state, the county, and the city in many of these areas. Probably, and I'm giving you an estimate, 75 to 85% of our roads are state roads. But the state has no money to fix the stormwater. So we have to fix the stormwater. I mean, sure, we're going to have potholes and we're going to have a few things that have to be done, but stormwater management and the conditions of stormwater is going to be our real long-term project that we have to start addressing.
So, building a better Beaufort. We look forward to seeing all that happen in the future, and thank you all for watching today's episode of 843 TV, where communities come to speak.